Hey everyone, this is Jeffrey Ovadia, founder of Sui Generis Games and creator of Asunder, and I wanted to take you through a gameplay walkthrough today. So I've got everything set up on the board for a 3-player game. Every game you put the same 8 action spaces to start, and each of the action spaces, right, we can take a close look here, let you do different things. Some of them let you take influence or the resource pieces that are up here, which I'll explain in a moment, or you can become the starting player and take influence as well. You can procure equipment or improve your guild prestige, or you can visit the arena, which is the main way to spend your resource pieces or influence to enlist champions. And each of them are different variations on that, and every game has those starting action spaces. At the beginning of each round, you reveal the first round action space, right, that you've shuffled beforehand, so they're actually in a random order for the first 4, the next 3, and the next 3. And each of them start to reveal more powerful actions that you can take that either give you more rewards or more resources or other things. I've got the 4-player action spaces here, right? I'm gonna take them away because this is gonna be a 3-player game example. And I've got the 5-player action spaces, right, which I'm going to take away as well because this is going to be a 3-player game example. I have all of my champions shuffled up here before the game, and I'm going to reveal the first 10 champions of the game in a moment. I've got all of my equipment that I've shuffled beforehand down here. I'm going to reveal those shortly, and what I've done is I've separated all of the monsters, the level 3 monsters, the level 2 monsters, and the level 1 monsters, and I took one from each pile at random and put them face down here to reveal at the end of the first 4 rounds when the monster first attacks. So to begin the game, I'm going to set up the rest of the game board. Here are the first 10 champions. And what's cool about Asunder is that every time you play, with all the shuffling, you're going to encounter random cards, or there's an element of randomness as to which cards you're going to see. So sometimes you might not even see all of the guilds. You know what? We did end up getting one of each guild here, so that's great. And then I'm going to reveal the first 5 equipment. Great. So now let me explain all the other components. To start the game, each player chooses a guild identity. You can be alchemist, assassin, paladin, necromancer, or warrior. We're gonna have a 3-player game here, so I'm gonna choose first player as the warrior, second player as necromancer, and the 3rd player as paladin. And they're each gonna get their prestige die, which is 1 through 8. But you start at level 0. So I'll just set them off to the side. All right, then you determine who goes first, and this is the first player Helma. And the way that you determine first, like any game of this type, is roll a d20. So let's say one player ends up going first, second, 3rd. All right? We denote first player, and they get to play during the first rounds 2 of their 4 acolytes that they have. Same for the necromancer, and same for the paladin. So players 1, 2, and 3 are ready. We have all of the influence cubes up here, right? White is valor for the paladins, green is elements for alchemists, purple is infamy for the assassins, black is decay for the necromancers, red is pride for warriors, and then you have gold resources as well. Those are all the battle dice that we'll use later, and these are punch outs that represent victory points, as well as other components during the game that you can utilize to help make things a little bit more clear. This is the barrier symbol that you'll get with certain equipment. But just walking through the game, it's the first round, we're ready to go. We have the 10 champions out there, the monsters hidden, we have the 5 equipment, and we've revealed our first round card, so the first player takes their turn and they draft an action space, right? That's how worker placement games work. You take one of your workers during your turn, you take what you think is the best available of the 9 spaces on the board, and then you take that action, and it very clearly says what it is. So I'm going to go to the take 2 influence of the same type, because as a warrior, I'm seeing that there are a couple of warriors here that have costs that would require me to have a lot of red influence, right? So I need 3 pride to pay for this champion and 6 gray influence, so 6 influence of any type. So I'm gonna need 9 of the influence cubes at any given point to get this champion. Once I get him, he's gonna be worth 9 victory points for the rest of the game. It'll tell me what kind of champion he is. It's gonna show me his ability that's gonna help during combat, his health, as well as the damage he does. So this is a very powerful champion at a cost of 9 influence total. It can roll up to a d20 worth of damage. So maybe I'm gonna be targeting this guy, or Wrecker of Havoc, or Manic Fomenter, but I'm gonna take the action that it said. Take 2 influence of the same type, I'm gonna put it in my resource pool, and I'm done. Okay. Next player's turn is gonna come up, and let's just take a look at Guild Prestige here. So if you look at the Guild Prestige card, you can see that it has different levels and a general ability. Whenever you enlist a Necromancer champion, you gain 1 victory point. So if I, at some point, had acquired enough influence to get one of the Necromancer champions and enlist it and put it with the rest of my cards that I've acquired, I'm gonna get 1 victory point, so I can take one of the victory point chits and put it with my pile. So it does encourage you to try to stay on Guild when you're acquiring champions, but it's totally fine if you don't. You want to make the best possible decisions given the board, because it's going to be different every time. So I'm going to accelerate through a couple of rounds here, and I'm going to say, you know what, my Guild Prestige is really important for Necromancer. I'm not going to try to win the race of who has the most influence. I'm going to improve my Guild Prestige and go from level 0 to level 1. Level 1 says, Zombify also adds +2 barrier, and Zombify is one of the abilities on the Necromancer champions that allows me to roll an extra die of that type if the 2 dice on my initial roll of any of my 2 matching attack dice match. So if I roll 2d4 and I get a 3 and a 3, I'm gonna get to roll 1 extra die of that type, another d4. If that triggers, if the Zombify ability triggers, my Guild Prestige will also give me +2 barrier, which essentially just temporarily increases health, which is a great ability for protecting your champions. So I'm going to accelerate through a couple of actions here. So I'm going to take 2 influence of the same type for the Paladin. He really wants to stay on Guild. He's going to get 2 Valor influence, and then we'll go through, and we really want to stay with the influence and the gold here. So we're going to pay 1 influence on this action spot to take 3 influence of the same type, which is a great card. All 3 of these essentially net 2 influence. And somewhere in this round, you're gonna see one that nets you 3 influence, which is great. Necromancer needs to actually stay in the game, and so he's gonna take an influence and a gold. And the Paladin really wants to become first player because that is incredibly valuable. And I can either take 1 gold by going onto this spot or pay a gold to take 2 influence. I don't have any gold, so I'm just gonna take a gold. And then that's the end of the first round, right? All 6 players have placed. What you do is you then take all of your acolytes back, which are what you call the meeples or the workers in this game. They're your acolytes for your guild that you're sending to do these assignments. I'm gonna reveal the next round, and there we go, we start the next round. So I'm gonna kind of power through this round so that you can see what happens when I'm ready to acquire a champion. In fact, I could do it right away, right, with the warrior. So when I get to that spot, I'm gonna try to. All right, so secretly look at the top of the equipment deck. You may take that card or procure an equipment. Let's say the Paladin wants to do that. So instead of only selecting from the 5 equipment that are available on the board, which each have different abilities, sometimes they help in combat, sometimes they help you during the normal rounds, I'm gonna take a secret look at the top card. It's Gilded Monument. This equipment does absolutely nothing but gain me victory points, but it happens to gain me a lot of victory points, and whoever has the most wins the game. So 5 victory points, and when I procure, meaning acquire this equipment, I also take a gold. So I'm gonna do it. I secretly looked at the top and I liked the secret. So I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna grab a gold, put it here. Then I'm gonna let the warrior go because he was first, so now the warrior's second. The warrior knows what he's gonna do. The warrior wants to visit the arena and take the 4 influence, right, that he has collected in previous rounds and pay it back to the city to enlist Manic Fomenter. Manic Fomenter costs exactly 4, so he's a very on-guild champion as far as costs, because he gives you quite a bit of abilities that are related to the warrior for a relatively low price, does 1d6 damage and has 2 health. So I've traded my 4 influence points, which at the end of the game would be worth victory points if I never spent them, and converted them into a champion that's going to help me defend against the monster. Then I get to replace the champion that's on the board, and good news for the paladin, there's another champion there. So let's say I went through several of the rounds, right? The next third round we'd have take 3 influence of the same type, and at the end of round 4 we've got improve your guild prestige and take 1 gold. All excellent spots to help me try to acquire champions as well as equipment. And another thing that I didn't mention is there's a champion type called militia. They're available for purchase with gold, right? They cost 2 gold for the squire, 3, 4, and 5 for the other ones. And they're just kind of, vanilla champions that don't really have any abilities, but they're bodies for you to fight with when the monster comes. So let's say I've powered through the rounds, right? The Necromancer acquired All Hallows EV because it saved up for a big champion as opposed to getting a bunch of little champions, and also a squire. And then the warrior was able to finally save up and get Silverwell Max Hammer, and the paladin was able to stay on brand and get a Keeper of the Light, but it took him a while to get there, so he also acquired a sophomore. All right, so now we're going to imagine that it is the end of the first 4 rounds. You are allowed to acquire any number of militia during your turn without visiting the arena at the end of the last round, because it's a last-ditch effort to build up your champion and resource base before the monster attacks. So let's say these were replenished as well. And I'm going to take 1 battle-related equipment here, because that's going to be useful during the battle. Cerebral Field. Let's say Necromancer gets it. Okay, we're ready for the very first battle. So what I'm going to do is take off the hit point dice and reveal the very first monster, right? It's the end of the first 4 rounds. We've all placed our pieces. We take the pieces back and we switch from a worker placement competitive gameplay to cooperative gameplay so that we can all defend the city from the monster. So the first monster that comes up, he's level 1, is Magmatic Ooze, right? It's an elemental. It's worth 4 victory points per battle round to the person that deals the most damage, minus 1 victory point for the next person, for the next most damage, all the way down to whoever's last. And it's minus 1 because it's the first epic round. It's the end of the first epic, the first 4 rounds. So you always take away that number from this for the next most damage. So again, the person that's going to deal the most damage in the first round of battle gets 4. Second most damage, 3. Third most damage, 2. All the way down to 0 if you're playing a 5-player game, right? The person that did the 5th most damage at the end of the first round, or every round of battle, is going to get 0 points, right? The monster has 25 base hit points plus 25 per player. It's a 3-player game. That means it's 25 plus 25 times 3, which is 100. It has 2 abilities. Its basic attack, right? And you always go in order. Its basic attack does 1d6 to 1 random champion, which we'll go through. And Lava Flow deals 1 damage to every champion on the board after its basic attack. So let's put it here in the middle of the board. It attacks. We're going to set up its hit points. It has 100, like we said. All right, and now it's time for easily the most fun part of the game, battle. All right, so the warrior, let's say the warrior ended up taking starting player in the last round. Whoever's starting player gets to attack first. You keep all of your cards in front of you, but for ease's sake, I'm going to move these right here so that you can see who's attacking and why and how. All right, so you get to choose which champion attacks and in what order. So I'm going to start with Manic Fomenter. It deals 1d6 damage, so I'm going to grab 1 of the battle dice, okay? Dauntless. All rolls below 3 are rounded up to 3, is one of its abilities. Glory. If a die rolls max, meaning the maximum value of the die on that card, which is 6 here, plus 2 damage for that attack. Great. So I'm going to take the die, roll it. I rolled a 4. It's not less than 3. I do no modification to this roll. The next one is Silverwell Max Hammer. he rolls a d20. He also has Dauntless, so he can roll up any low dice rolls that are below half, but guess what? He does 18. So first player did a ton of damage to Magmatic Ooze. He did 22 damage, so we're gonna reduce, at the end of all of the attacks for a person's round, you reduce the hit points. So he goes down to 78, right? And then we continue down. So let's say the next player attacks with Squire and All Hallows Evie. You can set these aside again, but remember how much damage you did for your own player. You can remember your own damage. You can also write them down, it makes it easier. Squire rolls 1d4. Okay, he rolled a hearty 1, thanks Squire for nothing. And then All Hallows Evie rolls 2d4 and 2d8. 2d4, 2d8, take them, okay? Do we have any triggers from Zombify? No, a 2 and a 4 don't match, a 2 and an 8 don't match, but the total damage is still 16 plus the 1. So the Necromancer dealt 17 damage to the monster. I'm gonna reduce him to 61. Remember that Warrior did 22, Necromancer did 17, so the Warrior's in the lead for the most victory points at the end of this round. And then the Paladin comes in. He's got his Squire, also, or his Sophomore actually, which is a little bit more powerful than Squire, and he has the Keeper of the Light. All right, so Squire attacks first with 1d6, with 3. Keeper of the Light has Divine Hand. If one of the dice rolls a 1, you can roll an additional die of the same type. Or Sacrosanct, if you roll max, you get +2 armor for the round, which reduces the amount of damage dealt to this champion permanently for that battle round. So he rolls 2d8. Let's get 2d8 again. Oh, I have 2d8 from the Necromancer. Roll those. Okay, so nothing triggers as far as abilities go, but we dealt 12 damage. Okay, so the monster is at 48 at the end of the first round. You assign all of the victory points. So the Warrior got 4 victory points, then 3 victory points to the Necromancer, and conveniently, Paladin got 2 victory points. All right, now it's the monster's turn to attack. The monster always attacks last. Okay, basic attack deals 1d6 to one random champion. We've got, how many champions do we have? We have 6 champions here. Okay, don't forget they're assigned to different players, but for the sake of this walkthrough, this is easier. All right, the way to assign randomness is just to say, okay, this is champion 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You roll 1d6 to decide which one it attacks. It attacks the second one, so it's going to try to attack All Hallows Evie with, conveniently, another 1d6. Let's roll it. It deals 3 damage to All Hallows Evie. All Hallows Evie has 4 health. So effectively, it's reduced down to 1 health, which you can utilize one of the punch-outs for. Say All Hallows Evie currently has 1 health. And it didn't kill her, which is great. Fantastic. You can go on to the next attack, which is Lava Flow. Deal 1 damage to every champion. All right, so 1 damage to Keeper of the Light, it goes to 4. 1 damage to All Hallows Evie. Oh no, it kills All Hallows Evie. So let's say I didn't use Cerebral Barrier, which has an ability that allows you to add a barrier at any time during battle and incentivizes you to use it on another player's champion. I'm not going to use it right now. I'm going to let All Hallows Evie die, which means you just turn it face down and it's removed from combat, okay? Then it does damage to the rest of them. All of them live because none of them have less than 1 health, so you can move along, right? Then you start the battle round again, right? And so all of the Warriors champions attack, and you go all the way until you hopefully kill the monster. Usually it takes about 2 to 3 rounds of battle to kill monsters, but the monsters can have some pretty devastating attacks, especially Magmatic Ooze if it killed some low health champions. So you want to make sure that you have equipment that can help you during battle to protect or possibly augment some of your attacks while you're fighting the monster. So let's say we went through everything and that's it. We ended up killing Magmatic Ooze. If you kill it during any attack round that's before the last player attacks, then something unique happens. The person that delivers the last blow gets to choose whether they get 2 victory points or everybody improves their guild prestige by 1 level. So either you selfishly take the 2 points and say, I was the one that killed the monster, or you share your victory with everybody. If it goes all the way to the last person, right, then it's a normal battle round and you dish out victory points as you would normally. The monster is then dead, everybody can rejoice, and you continue the game just like we were in the previous rounds. And you'd move on to round 5. Okay? At the end of round 7, the second level monster attacks. The end of round 10, the last monster attacks. And as you can see, though I don't want to spoil the fun, I will show you some of the cards. The monsters get increasingly more powerful. They deal more damage or have more unique abilities that are worth more points, and they have more health points, up until the point in which you finally battle the biggest monster in the game. Right? At the end of battle, all of the champions revive that were dead, so you get to kind of start again, and you're building up more champions and more equipment over the course of the game, so that the final battle is epic and everybody has 5, 6, 7, 8 champions as they're trying to take down, for example, the Black Dragon of Nazareth. And that's it. That is how you play Asunder. Very straightforward worker placement action drafting game with a lot of tactical strategy as to what's the best spot on the board. Perhaps you shift from trying to collect influence and get champions to maybe improving your guild prestige, which has increasingly more powerful abilities for you, as well as inherent victory points or free equipment, or maybe getting an extra acolyte so you get to place 3 players during a round. And as you shift your tactical strategy over the course of the game, hopefully you get the most victory points and win, but you got to work together to defeat the monster. That's it. That's Asunder. Thanks very much for watching this gameplay walkthrough, and I hope you enjoy the game.